anyway, we're beginning chapter 6, the opening of the 6 seals. Now, we just finished the part where John saw that there was a book that was sealed with 7 seals written on a scroll that was written on both sides. So the writing represents knowledge and higher knowledge. Now, there's knowledge that we find on the earth. You can read books and come across all kinds of knowledge. But then this book represents knowledge of things as they are. And that's a lot different than happens with average humanity. You can see that like 2 people have the same information. Say, look at the political parties today. Both believers and both sides have this, maybe have the same information, but they're seeing it differently. Now, if they're seeing it differently, it means that either one or both of them are seeing incorrectly. If one view conflicts with another view, it means that one or both of them are wrong. And quite often, both of them are wrong. So the extremes of both parties usually have flaws in them. So the book that John saw with the writing in, that writing symbolizes true reality that is beyond the grasp of the average human being. The average human being is governed by the emotional self, the astral body. And what the astral body does is it takes information and sees it as if in a mirror. Now, when you look in a mirror, you do not see your true self. You see a reverse reflection of yourself. Just hold up writing, some printed material in a mirror, and you won't be able to read it because it's reflected and reversed. And this is what the astral body does. And to see the truth, you have to see beyond the reflection. And because average humans out there are seeing the reflection of reality, they don't see the true reality. And this is why they're always arguing with each other, because one person sees the reflection from a little bit different angle than the other guy. And oftentimes they are both seeing incorrectly. The book that John saw represents true seeing. And so when John first saw the book, he just saw a little bit of writing on the scroll, but the scroll was not opened completely. So he saw a little bit of writing, which is symbolic of reaching the point where the disciple reaches the point where he sees beyond the illusion to the true reality. But when he sees the book with the 7 seals, he just catches a glimpse of the writing on it. And as he catches a glimpse, he realizes that this is true seeing. And this is what the disciple has to approach the level of true seeing beyond the illusion. Because a seeker can be very sincere and humble and do everything that's right, but he still is subject to warped seeing, so to speak, seeing the reflection rather than the reality. And he has to learn to see beyond the illusion. So illusion does not trick him, because a very sincere person can be tricked by illusion. It's like some of those people in the Middle East that want to cut people's heads off that disagree with them. You know, they are very sincere. Some of those people are very sincere, doing what they think is best. And the only mistake they're making is they are subject to an elusive idea, an idea that is subject to illusion, to reverse seeing. And so they do many harmful things, and we think they're animals or just monsters, but in their mind, they are doing what they think is right. But what they see as right is pure illusion. And everybody that's ever started a war did it because they think it was the right thing to do because they were tricked. Sincere people do crazy things because they're subject to illusion. And eventually the disciple reaches a point to where he sees beyond the illusion and gets a glimpse of true seeing. And this is what he has to do. He has to see correctly. And as he begins to see correctly, he opens the seals to the sealed book. And so I'm just going to read the first 8 verses of this just to give an overview of the opening of the seals. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, a noise of thunder, one of the 4 beasts saying, "Come and see." And I saw and beheld a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. And when he'd opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, "Come and see." And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat upon thereon to take peace from the earth, that they should kill one another. And there was given to him a great sword. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, "Come and see." And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 beasts saying, "A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil nor the wine." And when he had opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th beast say, "Come and see." And I looked and beheld a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over a 4th part of the earth to kill with sword, with hunger, with death, and the beasts of the earth. And the 4 horse, these are called the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And when people read this, they figure, well, that represents doom and gloom. But what it really represents are events that transpire in the life of the disciple once the book is open. Once the disciple sees things as they are. And this is what happens. He first of all sees just a few words written in the book. And then as the seals are opened, more of the book of true reality is revealed to the disciple after he reaches this point of enlightenment, where he begins to see the difference between truth and illusion. Okay, so the first seal represents the first step toward overcoming illusion that traps a tremendous number of very sincere people. There are very many people that have passed what is called the second initiation, where they have overcome a lot of things in the physical world and the emotional world. They have a lot of self-control, but they're trapped in an illusion so that they still cannot see correctly, and they still choose ways that are harmful. And so this is what he must escape. And the first step forward is opening of the first seal, and we'll read that again. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder, one of the four beasts, saying, "Come and see." And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. And the four horsemen represent the similar thing to the four beasts. You notice they're connected to the four beasts. The four beasts represented, what did they represent? Do you remember? Anyone remember what the four beasts represented?
Well, the lower aspects of yourself.
Right, the lower aspect of yourself is called the lower quaternary. The lower quaternary consists of the physical etheric, is the lowest part. The second part is the life energy, the prana, the life energy that activates life in this physical world. And then the next step up is the emotional self,
The astral.
the astral. And then the final part of the lower quaternary is the lower mind.
Lower mental. Right.
Right. Okay.
Where does the
So-
subtle come in at?
What?
Where does the subtle body come in at? You have the
Yeah,
physical body, the astral body, then the subtle body, and then the casual body. Where,
The etheric body.
And the subtle body is
the
where the
physi-
emotions are at, right?
The physical includes the physical and the etheric. The etheric is sometimes called the subtle body. Subtle body is anything that's below normal consciousness. So you kind of have to define what you mean by that. But the lower quaternary consists of these four: the physical, etheric. Now the etheric is the double of the physical body, and that consists of the whole part of the physical. And then the next step up in the lower quaternary is the life force itself, and then the emotional and mental.
JJ, excuse me, please, just clarification. Did you say that the subtle body is sometimes, and the etheric body, those are interchangeable terms? They mean the same thing?
Yeah, it depends on when people talk about subtle bodies, they sometimes mean different things. So you just have to find out what the person is talking about. But sometimes the etheric body is called the subtle body. Sometimes the causal body might be called the subtle body. So you have to find out what the person is referring to when he talks about a subtle body. Yeah.
Lions and tigers and bears, oh my.
Okay, so this first seal represents is assisted by the first beast representing the physical etheric. So what happens? The person begins to see things correctly, and the first impact he has is on the physical world. Now it sounds like these four horsemen of the apocalypse, the common interpretation is this represents tremendous upheaval we're going to see in the future in our world, and there's some true symbolism there. But the core meaning is the upheavals that happen when the disciple starts seeing things correctly. And when he starts seeing things correctly, then all of a sudden, all hell begins to break loose. Some of you that have got some enlightenment and maybe got kicked out of your church or something like that, kind of found out how that works out. So he says that he beheld a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. A lot of people associate this with the white horse that the Christ rides in on at the end of the book in chapter 19. as a victorious soldier, so to speak. But the crown here comes from a different word than the crown mentioned in chapter 19. The crown here comes from the Greek word Stephanos, which is a crown of victory in battle. And the white horse symbolizes victory also, in the fact that when in ancient times, when two armies fought, the winning army, the general rode around on a white horse as a symbol of that they had won the battle. And but that's a different word than is used in Revelation 19, where the Messiah shows up on a white horse. That word for crown there is diadema, which is a royal crown that belongs to an established king. So the first crown represents a victory in battle. And the second crown, the final crown, represents kind of a consummating, a recognition that of overcoming and a recognition of power. Okay, so the same English word is used, but in the Greek, the words are quite different. So when the person opens the first seal, he gets a crown of victory. He obtains a victory. He obtains some victory over illusion. So he begins to see things correctly. And that deserves a crown, a recognition of a tremendous accomplishment when the person begins to see through the illusion. So the rider on the white horse, he's not yet won his kingdom or his final crown, but he has mastered a few things, so he's able to read things from the scroll. He's able to see truth and present it to the physical world. And what happens when he presents it to the physical world? He goes forth conquering and to conquer. And so he begins to see things correctly, and he begins to straighten things out. He begins to take charge of his life. He begins to get control of his physical life. He discovers, for instance, the ingredients and procedures to have good health. So his body is a servant rather than a liability. And let's just look at health, for instance. Orthodox teachings out there tell us that how to have good health. And people that follow Orthodox medicine, they're often some of the most unhealthy people on the planet. You'll find the healthiest people on the planet are those who are able to see through the illusion and take the right ingredients into their body and into their minds so that they can have good health. And the people with the best health on the planet are often the people that break the rules that the establishment have established for us. And so they see through the illusion and they're able to establish health on the physical plane. They see through the illusion and they're able to operate in the physical realm in a positive way. For instance, an illusion that often captures spiritual people. They think, well, now I'm on the spiritual path, I'm just going to withdraw and meditate. So the guy winds up being no use to God or man because he's withdrawn, he's not serving anybody, he's not using his knowledge for anything. And so he's captivated by this illusion that this is the way for him to go. Whereas the true servant will think, well, how can I use this knowledge to help my fellow men so that I can be a servant and lift them up to where I am? I see a few things on the scroll and I want to share it. I want to share this true reality, because people out there are seeing things upside down, and I want to share my knowledge with them. And so this is a major step of overcoming the illusion, is sharing, seeing things correctly.
JJ, I
Yeah.
have a question.
Yeah.
So they say that in our brains, pretty much the way we see things upside down, our brain has to fix it. And it's like an automatic process.
Yeah.
So if you saw something like reverse, would it be easy to just rearrange it and have it be, in the proper order?
Who's going to rearrange it?
Well, the person who sees it.
Well, that's what we have to do. That's what the disciple does when he begins to open the seals, is he rearranges it in his mind. So instead of seeing through the emotions, lower emotions, even the lower mind, he sees through the higher mind. And when he sees through the higher mind, then he sees it correctly. In other words, he's not seeing the mirror image, he's seeing the true reflection. And thus he interprets correctly. So he can listen to the Democrats and Republicans argue, and then he can see the true points. And if he presents them, well, probably both sides won't like him very much. But
The impression I got from you was that instead of seeing a reflected image, he would just see the image itself, right? But I guess what I'm suggesting is, what if you saw the reflected image but interpreted it correctly, knowing it was reflected? You would
yeah,
still
well, the image itself is symbolic, because what we see is conjured up by the mind. Everything is created by mind that's out there. And so to see correctly, the person merely has to be in his right mind. and what we are in this world is in the lower mind and the emotions. That's where we're centered. And this, in some teachings, is just called the wrong mind. So when we're seeing through the lower mind, and you can't really see both at the same time. You have to either see one or the other. And probably over 90% of humanity are seeing through the wrong-minded thinking and feeling. And so they don't see correctly. And when they do come up with something that's correct, it's often by accident. But then when the disciple opens the seals, then he begins to perceive correctly. And correct perception is very difficult for aspiring disciples. And I think a number of people here well, everybody here is on the right path to true seeing. And this is what we want to focus on, is seeing correctly. And when you do see correctly, then you begin to make waves, and you notice these four horsemen. A lot of waves and a lot of disturbance are created by these four horsemen. And this is because when the person does see correctly, then everybody else out there thinks that he's not seeing correctly and he needs to be silenced. This often happens. The first beast that said, "Come and see," is like a lion, and he represents Leo. And so one of the main lessons of opening this first seal is learning to see correctly as to what is for your best good, because Leo represents the self. And the sign of Leo represents that, discovering that which will bring you true happiness and satisfaction. Okay, because oftentimes when the disciple plods along, he looks back on his decisions and says, boy, that was a terrible decision. That made my life worse, not better. Okay, so in Leo, the lesson of Leo is to discover what will really bring you happiness, satisfaction, joy, and peace. And this is the lesson of the first seal. He also is not only sees what's on the physical plane correctly, but he begins to see the true path of happiness. What will really make me happy? And this is very difficult. And a lot of people have a lot of depression just because they can't see clearly what's going to really bring them happiness. And you meet a lot of people out there that are frustrated with their life. Once you start talking to them a little bit, oftentimes then they come out with things about their life that is just not working out for them. They may look like they're really successful, but when you talk to them for a little while, you find out they seem to have a lot of problems. They don't seem to know what's going to make them happy. The guys may be successful in his business or career, but he's still not satisfied. So opening the first seal, the disciple learns what's really going to make him happy. Now, Curtis here, he's a really strong Leo. He's in the middle of the Leo sign, and he's got Leo rising, and he's got Leo influences all over the place. So he's a quintessential Leo. Have you discovered what makes you happy yet, Curtis?
Well, yeah. Yeah, I've discovered a lot of things that make me happy. One of the things we read in this Initiation Human and Solar is the Tibetan says, cultivate happiness. He says happiness is based on confidence in the God within, a just appreciation of time, and a forgetfulness of self. So, you know, those are some of the things that I've learned in my line of work to cultivate happiness. I'm able to connect with a lot of people on different levels. I'm a very social person, so, you know, I'm able to spend a lot of time with people. And I do a lot of things that just make me happy, like, you know, being here with you guys makes me happy.
Yeah, and that's a major accomplishment. What's the key to happiness, to self-fulfillment? It's because you can't be a good servant and help humanity unless you're satisfied with yourself. If you find out what really brings you happiness, then you can be an agent in helping others to find happiness also.
Now, another thing I was going to mention, on the first horse, he's given a bow, which I think represents Sagittarius. He's able to shoot an arrow, you know, through illusion. He's able to set goals, achieve his goals, which is also something that makes one happy, is when they set a goal and achieve it. But it has, I think, also to do with penetrating illusion, having a bow shooting through the light through the darkness, so to speak.
And one of the symbols of Sagittarius is stretching himself, because the bow shooting in the distance represents reaching beyond your normal abilities. And so when he begins to see correctly on the physical plane, he begins to achieve more than he was able to otherwise. So good points there, Curtis. Okay, the next horse is the red horse. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, come and see. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. Wow. That doesn't sound like a Christ figure, does it? It sounds like more of a Hitler or something, going forth to conquer and to conquer, and people wind up killing one another. So what's the meaning here?
Well, Jesus said, I have not come to bring peace, but the sword, which is
Yeah.
the sword of truth, you know, so he sat on his own white horse or red horse.
Right. Now this represents a second beast. The second beast represents the life energy, and the life energy, and it was red. And what does the Bible say is representative of the life energy?
Blood.
Right. It says the blood is the life. Okay. So the red represents this life energy that DK tells us it's the prana that we take in from the ethers that gives us our vitality. Okay, so the disciple at this point, he opens this second seal, and he gets the secret of life and how to correctly live it, how to master it. And as he does this, and remember, the horse represents intelligence. So these 4 horsemen represent a rise of intelligence in the disciple. So he begins to understand how to use this life energy. Now, it's interesting that the second beast was like a calf, and the calf was sacrificed in the Old Testament, and his blood was spilled, so to speak. And so this represents the sacrifice also, but an intelligent sacrifice. So the thing that's mystifying here, it says, and power was given unto him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, that they should kill one another, and there was given to him a great sword. So when the symbol, the greatest symbol of someone who's opened the seals in the past was Jesus. So when Jesus showed up, did all of a sudden, did people kill one another because he showed up?
Later they did.
Right, they did. He showed up, and after he showed up and he taught these great things, and he demonstrated the life principle by all the healing that he did, by using that tremendous life energy. And he performed all these things and taught all these things, and it didn't bring peace. It brought a sword. And that is exemplified through the Crusades. Look at the Crusades. Tremendous. It took peace from the earth. And this happens whenever whenever a disciple opens the seals and begins to teach and begins to show people the true reality. It upsets a lot of people. And then after he leaves the scene, people begin to interpret it incorrectly. They interpret it as in a mirror instead of seeing the true reality. They don't see it the way he taught it. If they saw Jesus's teachings the way he actually gave them out, would the conquistadors went to the American Indians and forced them to bow down to the cross or be killed? Would they have done that if they were really representing the love of God? No, they saw the teachings of Jesus entirely upside down when they made those poor Indians do that.
They forgot the golden rule of all things.
Yeah, and the Crusades, both sides of them were tremendous wars in the Middle Ages over the teachings of Christ. So when we see that,
Well, I think from my understanding, the Crusades were largely started by Muslim invasions. And the teaching that's usually given out now is that Christians arbitrarily just decided to invade the Middle East. But the Muslims have been taking over parts of Europe continuously, and then Europe eventually rallied together and decided to strike back against them. So I don't think it was just a
but
arbitrary.
I'm not saying that it was all unjustified, and there's a lot of illusion, like you say, around the interpretation of the Crusades. But there's also a lot of fighting between Christian and Christians. For instance, Germany was basically a Christian nation, and so was Italy. And the Axis powers fought against the Allied powers in World War II. And they both thought they were right in God's eyes. And so they both fought each other. And but that's a good point, Joshua, and the fact that even the way that we see the Crusades, we're not seeing them correctly. The average humanity is not seeing all the motivation and everything behind it correctly. And it's very difficult to see correctly. But this is the cause of the wars. It doesn't matter which side is most at fault. What the prime causes of the conflict is always incorrect seeing. People caught in an illusion, and thus peace is taken from the earth. So we look at the greatest individual that most people think has ever lived, which was the Christ. And instead of bringing peace on earth, there was a tremendous disturbance, tremendous fighting. Well, even shortly after he left the scene, people were fighting over his teachings, and there were numerous different factions of centered around the teachings of Christ, and they were all fighting against each other, and they all disagreed with each other. And it was only through Constantine where he brought them together and then persecuted anyone that disagreed with them, where the standard Christian church kind of got a foothold. But all of this happened through illusion, and there was tremendous conflict. So the red horse opening the second seal didn't really bring peace. It brought a great disturbance. But that great disturbance was just part of what plays out. And this is what the disciple has to learn. And even though Jesus was able to see ahead that these great disturbances would happen because of his mission, he didn't think, well, I guess I'm not going to do my mission because it's going to create a disturbance. But the disturbance has to take place in order for humanity to progress. And after the 2,000 years now, we can reflect and examine the history and see the right and wrong. So even the people that are in illusion are seeing reality a little bit closer than they did 2,000 years ago.
Also, during the time of the Crusades, they were in the sixth seal, which represents idealism, devotion to a cause. And so you had all these factions that were dedicated and devoted to a cause. And if you disagreed with me, then that was reason. You've disturbed my force. That's reason enough for me to go to war with you.
Yeah, and it was the sign of Pisces, which is governed by ray 6. So and then the number 666 was a big item for that age. And so the number 6 plays in, and the emotional self plays in this last 2,000 years. And what happens when you, as an individual who isn't the status of Christ or don't have the opportunity to make maybe an impact like Jesus did, what happens when you open this seal? What do you think? You open this seal and you see things with a much clearer vision than your friends and associates. Does it bring peace to everybody? You start telling your vision of true reality, do they think, wow, that's wonderful, that brings me peace?
I had 12 people when I was excommunicated either call or write letters. Like most of them wrote letters, and I discovered some of them a couple months ago. We can no longer associate with you because you're an apostate. And some of my best friends I never saw again. It just disturbed them so much.
What I found interesting when I had the same type of experience was I wrote up some of my thoughts and passed them out to my friends who I thought it would enlighten them. And do you know what they did with them?
Burned them.
Right. They didn't just throw them in the trash. They burned them. They said, I burned it. Now, why did they burn my writings? It was because they feared if they threw them in the trash, maybe somebody would maybe retrieve it and read it. They didn't want anyone to ever read that or see the light of day, so they actually burned my
To be obliterated.
So my teachings, which I thought should bring peace, it just really disturbed my friends that I shared them with. And Curtis was the only friend I had shared my thoughts with that it brought any peace to.
Oh yeah. Well, it's because I'd opened that seal, and I mean, you still have inner conflict to rise to the top. You have to go below all things to rise above all things, and you have to see everything. When I had to totally rearrange my thinking because of you.
Yeah.
So,
No, yeah, go ahead.
But it was worth it, because in the end, I could see things that I'd never seen before in a way that made much more sense on the higher frequency or the higher mental plane. And then I was surprised that people that I would share scriptures out of the Bible supporting reincarnation couldn't see what I could see. It was like black and white, day and night, and they couldn't see it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, Curtis and I had read this scripture in the Mormon scripture that says that there are many people that do not have the truth simply because they know not where to find it. So Curtis and I said, well, we're going to show them where to find it. But it made us, the reaction made us doubt the truth of that scripture.
Yeah, so we printed up the bumper sticker, I found it. No,
Another great example of somebody that opened the sixth seal is Abraham Lincoln. He opens that seal, and he was a peaceable, jolly guy that everybody had friends that just really liked to be around him, because he was really a person that in normal circumstances was just a kind of fun guy to be around. But then when he became president, because he was of his views on slavery, it created a tremendous disturbance. Matter of fact, just read a book recently about his trip he made from Illinois to Washington, where there was a tremendous conspiracy to kill him before he could be sworn in as president. It's quite a story in itself. And it's a miracle that he was able to even get to Washington before he was assassinated. And then when he did get there, there was a tremendous upheaval that created the greatest war in history, and tremendous amount of blood was spilled, just because Abraham Lincoln was able to see what is true just a little bit above the average humanity, and he was tried to implement it. And so it created a tremendous disturbance. Similar to what
he was going to shatter a whole socioeconomic system of the South, and the South knew it. They just knew that Lincoln was anti-slavery and was going to shatter their whole way of life. You know, and he did.
Yeah, a lot of people think the Civil War was started over money or taxes and different things, but it wouldn't have happened without slavery. They would have resolved the other differences, but the slavery thing was really a thorn in the side for the South. And he was able to see that with a little bit clearer vision than other politicians. And the South was afraid that what he was going to do, so they took preemptive strikes and withdrew from the Union. And so anyway, that he was a great example of somebody that saw a little higher than others, and what it produced. It produced tremendous conflict. But look at the results of the conflict. We no longer have slavery. And the results, after the dust was settled, then good was the result. But and this is the result of the fourth ray. The fourth ray is called harmony through conflict. And you have to have a certain amount of conflict when there's disagreement. Let the disagreement play out, and in the end, harmony will be the result. In the end, even though after 2,000 years, we still haven't soaked in the entire message of the Christ about loving your brother as yourself and peace on earth, goodwill to men. We still haven't absorbed it. We've made some steps, and eventually it will happen. And so the mission of Christ was essential to plant the seeds to make the good eventually prevail. Okay, any comments or questions before we wrap it up?
Yeah,
Well,
funny,
just one
funny
thing
enough,
on
you
the
were
South.
talking about the four horsemen, and the picture that just happens to be in my hotel room is of these four horses at a racetrack. I don't know if you can see that clearly at all.
Are they different colors?
No, they're all black and brown. They're not the same colors as the thing, but there's
Yeah.
four horses.
Interesting.
I was going to say another thing about the South is the people in the South were becoming very lazy. Even their speech became lazy. And no, you know that they got that Southern drawl because they had the slaves do all their work, where the North was based on industrialism and, you know, hard work and labor, and so that was another division that was happening between North and South.
I never really thought of speech being kind of a reflection of that. I do like the Southern accent, though, despite the fact, even if it did develop that way.
They got lazy everywhere.
I like it when they say, y'all come back now, you hear?
Was
Well,
it
I think
laziness
that's-
or maybe long contemplation of what they're trying to say instead of laziness?
Yeah, who knows?
Well, in view of all this, we have to look at the progress humanity has made since we crawled out of the caves and discovered fire. We've had to go through a lot of self-realization and testing all of the elements.
Yeah, one of the great deceptions among humanity is they see the problems in the world, and a lot of people think the world is more evil now than it's ever been, but they don't see the progress that we've made. We've made actually a lot of progress. Just think, just a couple hundred years ago, it was popular to have slaves, and the majority of people thought that was okay. And but not anymore. We've evolved beyond that. Used to be people didn't care if animals suffered. Now people are very sensitive about the animals, and we're becoming more sensitive, and we are making progress toward seeing correctly. And this is an important thing for humanity to understand. So good points there, Ed. Anything else?
Becoming more cooperative as a society. More cooperative.
Consciousness is evolving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right
That's a
on.
very good book. The teachings of the doctrine of eternal lives
Yeah.
that I've been using to spread the reincarnation.
Yeah, I just read that book. It's got a lot of information in it. He stole my title though. Did you know wrote a book 10 years earlier than that called Eternal Lives? Matter of fact, he even quotes a couple things from my book. But yeah, it's a little bit, you can't copyright a title, so it's perfectly fine to use a similar type title. That often does happen. So I have no problem with that. Okay.
So, would you say that truth is always a little disturbing at first?
The what?
Would you say that truth is always a little disturbing at first?
Among general humanity, pretty much. A truth that is beyond somebody's consciousness. If you present it to them, it will disturb them. If they're ready for it, it won't. But we're talking about truth that when the disciple opens the sixth seal, most of his friends have not opened this seal. And so he presents what he sees to those who do not see it, and they will think he's crazy. Okay.
Well, I know there's been times I saw something that was true, and I've even been a little disturbed. Like, man, this is no way, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been presented different things in my life that was above my consciousness. And then later on, I found out it was correct. And when I found out it was correct, it made me happy. But before that, like I remember when I was on my mission for the LDS Church back in 64 to 66, I projected my consciousness in the future, and I thought, what is the worst thing that I could imagine happening to me? And I was thinking, if I wound up being excommunicated from the church, that was the worst thing I could think of happening to me. Yet when it happened, I wasn't, it didn't bother me at all when it did actually happen, because my consciousness had changed a lot.
You expanded your ring past not.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a seal all by itself.
Brings to mind a JJ quote that every step upward begins with a point of tension.
Yeah, the point of tension, we can have a whole class on that. That's a good point.
Do you have any writings on the point of tension?
Yeah, just go to Google and write in point of tension, and then select free read as the site you want it to search. Do you know how to do that? Because there's a place, a couple boxes down on the general search. You can put in any site and it will search that site. So put in freeread.com, point of tension for the search, and it'll bring up a bunch of stuff. Yeah. Okay, my friends, we will see you next Sunday at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, all being well. And it's a good group today, good vibes, and appreciate you all.
Have a powerful week.
2
everyone.
p.m.
Bye, everyone.
not
Thanks,
10 p.m.
JJ. Have a good week, everyone.
All right.